Thank you, Liz. Good morning and welcome to the final installment of NCEDA's Professional Development Series on the role of higher education in economic development. As Liz stated, I'm Maureen Little, and I've been invited to kick off today's webinar, From Campus to Commerce, the Role of Community College Partnerships, which is being presented by the Hayes Group Consulting. I'm a retiree member of NCEDA and a former member of the organization's board of directors. I spent 34 years with the North Carolina Community College system, so today's topic is very close to my heart. I know everyone's eager to hear from the lineup of community college leaders and economic development partners, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But first, let me thank the Hayes Group Consulting for their generosity as today's presenting partner. Jan and Charles Hayes have been vocal advocates for our community colleges and universities across their careers. And today is only the latest example of their dedication. I would also like to acknowledge NCEDA's annual sponsors, the organizations and companies committed to events like this one year-round. You'll see their names and their logos on your screen. NCEDA's professional development mission relies on them. And I know everyone shares my appreciation for the enormous value they bring. Now, before we get started, I'd like to invite Jan Hayes to give a brief welcome on behalf of our presenting sponsor, Hayes Group Consulting. Jan?
Thank you, Maureen. Hayes Group Consulting is delighted to sponsor this webinar. Our team at Hayes Group believes that education is the catalyst for successful communities and successful people. As evidenced by my nearly 4 terms on the Central Carolina Community College Board of Trustees, we're excited to highlight the role North Carolina community colleges play in moving our great state forward. Again, thank you so much for giving Hayes Group this opportunity.
Thank you, Jan, and thank you for your service to Central Carolina Community College as well. Now let's get started with the topic at hand. The North Carolina Community College system now serves more than 500,000 students and employs over 36,000 people. According to a recent economic impact study, the system contributes approximately $19.3 billion to the state's GNP each year. But behind those numbers are real people and real partnerships working closely every day to bring jobs, businesses, and capital investment to our great state. Today, we're going to be pulling back the curtain and see how these relationships are adding mutual value for our campuses, our companies, and our communities. Dr. Bruce Mack has been the Vice President of the North Carolina Community College System since last June. He's our moderator today. Dr. Mack, prior to his coming to Raleigh and serving at the system office, spent 25 years at Cleveland Community College, where he led economic and workforce development programs, vocational education, and corporate training. He's a product of North Carolina's higher education with undergraduate and graduate degrees from UNC Charlotte, NC State, and Gardner-Webb University. And Bruce, you may have to correct me. This wasn't in the bio, but I think I recall that you also got an associate degree from Gaston College, but you can let me know if that's wrong. NCEDA certainly appreciates Dr. Mack taking the time to moderate this important webinar. He will introduce his panelists and take it from here. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Bruce Mack.
Thank you, Maureen. It's great to see you again, and it's been an exciting journey to follow you and following your footsteps and the work that you've laid out Yes, I am a graduate of B. Gaston College in industrial engineering technology. So yes, I am a product of the community college system. So welcome everyone. I'm glad to be here to offer some opening remarks, introduce our panelists, and moderate the Q&A. It's appropriate we're talking about all of this on May 4th. Some of you Star Wars people know this is Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with everyone. In fact, community colleges are the force for North Carolina's economy, and we're very proud of it. We believe our state leads the country in providing convenient, affordable educational opportunities and in offering employers access to highly trained talent ready for the demands of today's workforce. Our system traces its roots to the 1950s with the passage of the Community College Act and the establishment of a statewide network of industrial education centers. While much about North Carolina and its economy have changed in the past 7 decades, our commitment to bridging economic growth and workforce readiness remains central. Education and training remain vital to creation and prosperity and community success, especially in the knowledge age, with strong basic and specialized skills, as well as a commitment to long life learning, powers North Carolina's competitive against other states and nations. I've been able to witness this up close and personal, both during my 25 years at Cleveland Community College and in the past 11 months in my current role, providing the strategic oversight between the system and its economic development mission. I'm proud to be counted among NCEDA's more than 800 members and salute the great work the organization does in facilitating collaboration among the state's economy and their academic and workforce partners. This important webinar series on the role of higher education and economic development is evidence in NCEDA's valuable leadership. North Carolina's community college campuses are dynamic places where diverse people converge to address a variety of different needs. Our stakeholders include high school students getting a jump on college credits, transfer students en route to bachelor degrees, vocational and technical students earning certificates and associate degrees, working adults sharpening their skills, entrepreneurs getting advice on starting a small business, and not to mention customized training for industry workforce, and much, much more. In addition to all that, our campuses and the women and men who lead them are stewards of the economy, working to support small, medium, and large employers as they arrive in the community, grow, expand, embrace new technologies, and hopefully hire more North Carolina workers. Community colleges act as a catalyst between workforce development and economic development. In fact, most of us view the two as one and the same. But our economic development role doesn't occur in a vacuum. Municipal, county, regional, and statewide economic development organizations are vital in offering the guidance, technical expertise, strategic continuity, and advocacy support that enable us to execute this aspect of our mission, and we partner every day across the state. That's not to suggest that just one partnership model we can overlay in every community, just as there are a number of ways North Carolina Economic Development Organization operate. Our campuses have the flexibility to work with their partners in a way that makes sense for their community. These partnerships are designed and managed with the best interests of the local economic needs and opportunities in mind. Today, we're going to hear how 3 North Carolina community campuses are collaborating with local economic development partners to respond to a fast-changing business landscape. They paired up in teams, and we're going to hear from them in alphabetical order by campuses. After all 3 have taken their turn, we'll have some Q&A at the end, and I'll ask that you enter your Q&A in the Zoom chat session or Q&A session. First, we have Dr. Laura Leatherwood and Brittany Brady. Dr. Leatherwood is the current president of Blue Ridge Community College, which serves Henderson and Transylvania counties. She previously served for 17 years in various roles at Haywood Community College, including Vice President of Student and Workforce Development, Executive Director of Haywood Community College Foundation, and Director of Institutional Advancement. Dr. Leatherwood was named 2022 President of the Year by the State Board of Community Colleges for North Carolina. With her is Brady, who was named president for the Henderson County Partnership for Economic Development in 2017. She is a 9th generation Henderson County native who began working for the partnership in a marketing and communications role shortly after completing her master's in international hospitality and tourism management. She accepted increasing responsibility for critical programs within the organization, including developing Made in Henderson County and a more focused business development strategy. Following them will be Dr. Scott Ralls and Michael Haley. Dr. Ralls, a Western North Carolina native, became the 4th president of Wake Technical Community College in April of 2019. Prior to becoming president at Wake Tech, Dr. Ralls served as president of Northern Virginia Community College 2015 to 2019. Dr. Ralls also served as the president of the North Carolina Community College System from 2008 to 2015. Along with Dr. Ralls is Michael Haley, who serves as the current executive director of the Wake County Economic Development and the senior vice president of the Chamber Economic Development. In his role, Michael oversees the economic development program and is the primary partner for providing support to 12 other municipalities. Michael previously served as the director of business recruitment and expansion for the Wake County Economic Development, where his work led to the creation of 7,800 jobs and more than $409 million in capital investment. And lastly, we have Dr. Jeff Cox and LeeAnn Nixon. Dr. Jeff Cox currently serves as the president of Wilkes Community College, a position he's held since 2014. Prior to his appointment, Dr. Cox was superintendent of Allegheny County Schools for almost 9 years. He also previously served as an assistant superintendent of curriculum instruction for Lee County Schools. Dr. Cox was an elementary principal and an assistant principal in Union County Schools. He began his career in education as a high school teacher and coach. And along with him is LeeAnn Nixon, who serves as the current president of Wilkes Economic Development Corporation. A Surrey County native, she's been involved in economic development for 9 years, previously serving 5 years at Surrey County Economic Development as vice president of existing business services and 3 years at Cabarrus Economic Development as existing industry project manager. So let's please welcome these presenters, these panelists.
Well, good morning, NCEDA. It's great to hear from you. I'm Brittany, Brady, president of the Henderson County Partnership for Economic Development and an NCEDA board member. And I am pleased to be presenting with the president of the year, Dr. Leatherwood. She is our esteemed leader at Blue Ridge Community College. And we're going to walk you through how we work together in economic development from start to finish. So Liz, if you wouldn't mind to hit our first slide talking about recruitment. So as many of you know, recruitment does not happen in a silo. It is truly a team approach. It does not behoove my organization to try to take it on all on our own. When a company is looking at a community, they're looking at a community. They're looking at every aspect. And if you have been in economic development the past few years, you now know that workforce leads in recruitment. It used to be you need to know the ins and outs of a site. But most visits now are going to be really heavy on workforce. They're going to look at NAICS codes and they're going to look at wages in a way they haven't before. And so it makes us stronger to lead with that conversation. And so we work very, very closely with Blue Ridge Community College. We want to make sure we are saying the same thing when it comes to recruitment efforts. And we pride ourselves in letting Blue Ridge know anytime that there is a lead. Not only does that prepare them if there is a client visit, but it also helps them see the trends that we're experiencing in our community and in economic development. And so we want to work in sync. We want to have that constant communication when a client is coming to us. And one of the ways that this has really proved to be beneficial for us is Blue Ridge Community College continues to grow. It continues to expand. And in their expansion efforts with the new building, they're actually creating a flex space for economic development recruitment efforts, which we are just so thrilled. It was such an honor to be invited to partner with Blue Ridge Community College to talk about how to develop a flex space. So when we have industry who needs to get up and get started, they have the opportunity to do so. Or if we need to host an industry in their facility, there's a nice glass wall and we can look over that flex space. So really, truly, from the beginning, we are talking constantly on how to recruit companies. We'll advance to the next slide.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Leatherwood, and I have the pleasure of serving as president at Blue Ridge. So to follow up on what Brittany talked about, when we're working with a company, I think one of the important things for our institution is we need to know the strengths and the assets of our community, right? That's really, really important because that's kind of the selling points when we're meeting with a company. But more importantly, too, it's incumbent upon us as a college to understand. I need to understand Brittany's targets. I need to understand the where she's headed, where the county's headed. We want to make sure that our recruitment strategy and our educational offerings and programs actually align with her targets. And a good example of that is we know that we are heavily invested here in automotive manufacturing, right? And I know that means that my programs, my facilities, my staffing levels need to align with everything that and the direction that Brittany's going from an economic and recruitment standpoint. A good example of that is what we call SAMTech, and SAMTech stands for the Southeastern Advanced Manufacturing Technology and Education Center. It is the only one in the country, and that lab was actually a product of recruiting a company called GF Linamar to our region, which is a significant recruitment effort. But we had to make sure that our facilities from a training perspective, customized training perspective, actually aligned with the company that she was recruiting. So that's an important part. When we are hosting a company, and I'm alongside with Brittany, every single company that comes into town, I need to know, and Brittany assures me that I know what the client is looking for from a programmatic standpoint, what they're producing, what do I need to know that the client may be looking for. And then ensuring that the right hand is telling the left hand. In other words, very clear communication. When we're working with a company on customized training, I'm relaying that back to Brittany from an economic development standpoint, what we're doing. When she's working with the company, she's relaying back to me what's going on in those recruitment efforts, what the challenges are, where the college can come in and fill a gap, and where the challenges are. So I think that it's really, really important for credentials. What credentials do we need to be offering? Our customized training package needs to be fully aligned with everything that Brittany's doing with her team. Next slide, please.
So I'm a mom of two children, and I have Horton Hears a Who on my desk, and people always think that my kids have come in my office and they have left that behind. But if you've read Horton Hears a Who, disclaimer, it's not my kid's book, it's my book, because it's a reminder, Horton heard a who because he listened. And that's what we strive to do, is we strive to listen to the needs of our employers in the community first and foremost, and to understand what we can offer them. It's easy in economic development to know a lot of things and want to share all the knowledge that we know. But what we have learned is when we can listen and customize our approach, we're more successful. And so around 2017 time period, we actually had two employers who said, we think you should consider a pre-apprenticeship or an apprenticeship model. And Laura says it time and time again, employers drive the solutions. We can have a million offerings on the shelf, but if they're not driving those solutions, it does not matter. It's not going to be successful. So here we were with two companies who both were pointing at a similar solution. They wanted to be involved in an apprenticeship program. And so we tried it. And those two employers grew to 4 employers, are now closer to 7 and 8 employers. And how this process works, again, it is a hand-in-hand approach with Blue Ridge Community College. The partnership, the economic development entity, coordinates the cohort or the consortium of employers. So we get together with those employers, try to, again, listen to the needs that they have, listen to the concerns that they have, and develop a program that works for them. Blue Ridge Community College is handling all the educational components from that. And so coming up with the curriculum, we co-market. So from the beginning of the program until a student is enrolled in the apprenticeship, the partnership, the economic development entity is doing the marketing. And then once the student is enrolled in the program, that is handed off to the community college to run it like a similar curriculum program. But we are having constant communication, constant marketing strategies, again, and just working hand in hand to make sure that we are listening to the needs of the employers and having workforce strategies. Next slide.
So next, I'm going to touch a little bit on existing industry and what we do collectively to take care of our existing industry. So whether you're existing or whether we're recruiting, there's two things that we need to keep our eye on. that companies are looking for. Number one, we need to know our labor shed. We need to know the volume. So they need the number of people that they're going to have either to stay or to recruit here. The second thing would be the quality of the talent. So the community college needs to be able to understand where's the volume going to come from, and then what kind of quality and what level can you get the talent to. That's going to be really important, in particular for existing industry. One of the things that we have set up here, which works as a beautiful thing, I have a team at the college that goes out and visits every single industry throughout the year in our 2-county service area. Brittany also has an existing industry team. So we invite each other to do our visits with each other. If for some reason our team is going out and Brittany's not with us, if we hear something about that company, perhaps an expansion, or they may be eligible for incentives, then we can feed that back to Brittany and her team, where she can lead that effort. Or God forbid they're leaving, they're taking their company somewhere else, then I can relay that back to Brittany. Brittany can maybe try to get possession of the facility again to market to another company. So we do those industry visits collectively, but when we're not together, we make sure we're feeding that information back to the other team member. And then providing a response to the needs within reach. They need for us to make things happen for them. Our job is to do that, to help find a solution to their challenge so we can keep them in our community. And then Brittany talked a little bit about this, but we did something interesting. We brought together all of our manufacturers and we held what's called a talent summit. And we heard from them, what are your challenges? And we brought subject matter experts to the table and said, okay, how can we drive a local solution? We brought our elected leaders, a lot of our businesses together and say, okay, what is it that we can tackle for our companies collectively? And maybe just one or two things that would ensure that this is a good environment for them to do business. And it really was a wonderful experience. And we just need to make sure that we're staying lockstep with each other. Then the other side of that, the community college, when we're hiring a key industry personnel here on the college campus, then Brittany and her team become a part of our hiring process, so that we're collectively agreeing on the types of individuals that are going to be part of our team together. Next slide, please.
I think that concludes kind of our start to finish of how we work together here in Henderson County.
Well, thanks, Brittany and Dr. Leatherwood. We appreciate that. I'm excited to be joined by our community college president today, Scott Ralls. Scott has been an amazing partner for us. And I thought, Scott, if it's all right, I'd just like to tee up why we've been such good partners for so long, if that's all right with you, before I turn it over to you to really talk about how important our community college is to our overall ecosystem here. Sort of three really things stick out when I think about our partnership with Wake Tech. One is that Scott and his entire team at Wake Tech are what I call a yes and partner. Whenever we're working, whether it's existing industry or a prospect, every project that we work, every existing industry question we have, Scott and Wake Tech are involved, and they're always a yes and partner. What can we do? And so it's an amazing partnership for us when we think about the impact of economic development. Two, we have this amazing strategic partnership and strategic alignment. What I really enjoy about that is that Scott and his team serve on our advisory board, and we're able to work with Scott on all these different issues because we do have such alignment. We're together developing strategies. We're together developing programmatic infrastructure. I think that's a really important aspect about what it means to be a partner and to really inform both our economic development strategy and our community college strategy, which really at the end of the day becomes one and the same. So I think that's important. The last thing I'll say about our partnership is what I like to think of as connectivity up, down, and across. I'm real fortunate. Scott's always a call or a text away, but our partnership with Wake Tech goes even beyond Scott. We're real fortunate to have many of Scott's colleagues at Wake Tech serve on on boards with us, serve with us when we have prospect visits, when we go out of, when we travel different places, we're able to bring Wake Tech colleagues with us. And that really shows, again, the depth of partnership that we have and how important it is. I think I say a lot that talent's the most important resource that we have here in Wake County. And Scott and Wake Tech are critical to that talent ecosystem here. And we're thrilled about the partnership we have, not just with projects, but with the existing industry. And as I said before, the strategic alignment that we have in the community. So Scott, I thought I'd turn it over to you to talk a little bit more about the nuts and bolts of that partnership and how we sort of work together on economic development here in Wake County.
Well, thank you, Michael. Whenever Michael zigs, I'm used to zagging. That's the way we work. So I appreciate being part of this. You use that term ecosystem, so I'm going to probably maybe pick up on that, because I think that's what we try to emphasize, and I think is also a strength for us in Wake County, and a way we try to position ourselves at Wake Tech as part of that ecosystem. I've said in the past that, when economic development is at its best, it sounds like a beautiful symphony, and when it's at its worst, it sounds like a terrible duck hunt. And what I mean by a terrible duck hunt is, at its worst, it's everybody shooting at everything that flies and claiming everything that falls, and that's typically unsuccessful and sounds terrible. But when it works at its best, it's like a symphony. And for us, Wake County economic development, when it comes to economic development prospects and projects, is the symphony conductor. And then we're part of that symphony, and we play a very important role as part of that, but we're not the only role. And so I think what works for us in Wake County, and we're different in terms of our economic projects. We're not going to necessarily be competing for the same projects that you'll see in Hendersonville or in Wilkesboro, but I think it's the same everywhere. But we're part of a bigger ecosystem, and so our ecosystem consists of, that talent development partnership, which includes Wake County Public Schools, which greatly includes our workforce board, capital area workforce board, which includes what is, I think, probably the best economic development university in the United States, which is NC State. And so part of our role is that there are elements that each of us can uniquely do and do uniquely do as part of our role that we play in the symphony. But the symphony sounds the best when we tighten it up and we connect. And so for us, when a prospect comes along, it is not just we're flying off brand new down a road, but we have kind of worked these partnerships, not just the partnerships between economic development and the individual entities, but also how we work together with our other talent ecosystem to create the stuff in between. And I think that's where a lot of times economic projects can be won, is the stuff that's in between. When we talk, if we limit economic development to just customized training, then we have limited our conversation about what is their long-term competitiveness. But when we talk about how we are each uniquely strong, and I personally am biased, I think Wake Tech's the best economic technology workforce forward community college in the country, just like I believe NC State's the best university in that regard. And I think when we sell our collective strengths and we sell each other's strengths, then we are really strong. And I think that's something we try to do. So part of it is about customized training. It is about that front door. It is about responsiveness. And because we're so large at Wake Tech, it can't just be me, and that's why we have to have great economic development professionals like Brittany Nichols, who leads our customized training, or Cherith Robertson, who leads our small business. But every element of our college, including specifically our provost in certain areas that have specialties that, whether it's our degree programs or what we try as a one college approach that takes our degree and non-degree and try to bring the whole gamut of what the company may be interested in. And then we work that engagement from the very beginning. And what we try to do is create through that, initial engagement, a connection, a relationship. Every new project we have, and we have a lot at Wake Tech because we're such a large community, I'm involved in every initial conversation, and then I get involved. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring the whole college and then our connections with our talent ecosystem, because what we really want is when they make that next decision about expansion, we want that to be a no-brainer. Yeah, they're going to talk about how they're comparing us to Austin and other places, but we want them pretty much to have that decision made up because of the roles that we've played. So for us, economic development at Wake Tech is not compartmentalized. It's not just a specific part of our college. It is kind of core to our strategies to, help folks from Wake County, as we like to say, ladder up into the opportunities that are unique in our community. We have, in the past year, thanks to Michael and his team's great work, and I think the ecosystem that exists here, we have Apple computers and the largest biotech announcement within the last year. And that's not the limit of what we've had, but I think a large part of that has come not just because of any one part of the ecosystem, but because of how the ecosystem works together. And Wake Tech is a huge part of that ecosystem. And so we try not to worry so much about how much credit we get. Just going back to the duck hunting, it's not so much about, who gets the claim for each duck that falls. It's, it's more the symphony. And when we're playing beautiful music together, we win those projects, which is much more important than winning the individual MVP awards. So I think I feel like that's the way we try to approach it from a Wake Tech perspective. And I think that's been a secret of what's been a lot of Wake County's economic development success, is this unique ecosystem that we're proud to be a big part of.
LeeAnn and Jeff, I'll go ahead and share y'all slides.
Okay, great. While you're pulling those up, I'll launch in. So I'm Jeff Cox, president at Wilkes Community College, here with our partner, LeeAnn Nixon, with our Wilkes EDC. We have a great partnership with our EDC. We do a lot of different things together. But the thing we want to share with you today is a little bit different take on economic development than what kind of the traditional thing may be with business and industry recruitment. We have a particular new initiative we're calling NC Tech Pass. It's a new nonprofit we've launched here in our area, and it's all about growing the rural tech talent pipeline. So next slide. Scott alluded to this a little bit earlier in his remarks about some of the recruitment efforts that the Wake County and the state overall have been successful in bringing in a tremendous number of technology jobs, well-paying technology jobs into our state. And we've all seen these different announcements, and it's wonderful news. And these are great jobs being located in our area, but it is creating a very high demand for tech talent across the state. Next slide. If you can look at these statistics here and see what the growth in the tech industry has been here in North Carolina. Back in March of 21, there were about 35,000 or so high-tech job openings. And now a year later, that's over 49,000 high-tech job openings across North Carolina. So a tremendous amount of growth and an opportunity for our state. So we have been developing a vision here at Wilkes Community College and in our community at large around the idea of becoming a rural tech talent pipeline. There are too many of these technology jobs to be filled just by our urban populations. And being from the rural part of the state, sometimes we don't have the wealth of opportunity in terms of good, well-paying jobs here in our rural part of the state that some of our urban centers do. So we feel like there's an important role for the college to play here in bridging this gap. So next slide. Essentially, our vision is we want to have, sorry, go ahead and go on to the next slide. Yeah, so we want to have this vision of having our northwest part of the state to be the nationally recognized hub for remote tech workers. So again, as these companies are located mostly in the urban centers, what they're realizing is they're scrambling for talent with all the other technology companies that are located in those urban centers. So we want to be rural tech pipeline. If COVID taught us anything, it's that a lot of these jobs can be done remotely. We saw that here in various anecdotal examples of people jumping in, coming up, leaving their homes in Charlotte or Raleigh or from wherever, and coming up to their summer homes here in Wilkes, Ash, and Allegheny, and then figuring out they could actually do business from here. And many of them have decided they're not moving back to the city. They love it up here. They love our mountains and streams and the beautiful outdoor areas that we have and our small town atmosphere. And they just don't want to get back into the kind of the rat race of the big city. So we're trying to provide opportunities for them to stay here and work remotely with their high-tech jobs. Okay, next slide. So one thing that we have here in Northwest North Carolina is great fiber connectivity. We had companies, some of our telecom companies that had the foresight back in the last recession in the Obama administration to utilize some federal funds to build out our fiber connectivity. We've got great fiber in very remote places up here in the northwest corner of the state. So if you look at this heat map of the state and see the percentage of fiber connectivity, gigabyte fiber out to residences, you can see our area, our service area is literally that top northwest corner of the state. And you can see how terrific an asset we have in that broadband connectivity. Okay, next. So what we want to be able to do is leverage that great broadband that we have, along with the beautiful downtowns, and as I mentioned, some of the great amenities we have, a pace of life that's a little bit different than the city. And we wanted to leverage that for a great economic development opportunity, and we thought technology was a natural fit for that. Okay, next. So essentially, this NC Tech Pass has four main components. The first one is just building the talent pipeline from birth to career and adult reskilling. We want to have a portfolio that would prepare, mentor, and connect the new generation of rural tech talent. The employers are an important component of this. We want to have employer partners to help us shape the curriculum, promote careers, and then hire employees out of this NC Tech Pass partnership program. Next is infrastructure. We partnered with one of our local nonprofits, the Heron Family Foundation. They put up $2 million to form this new nonprofit. And with this new nonprofit, we've already purchased one of a building in one of our downtowns that we're going to create as an outpost for these technology jobs. So essentially, companies could either, well, it could be individuals who come in and utilize kind of desk space in this location, or it could be companies who are maybe based in Charlotte or Raleigh or San Francisco or wherever, but they would allow 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 of their employees to work out of an outpost that they would rent from us space in this new downtown building that we have, at a fraction of the cost that it would have in Charlotte or Raleigh or, again, San Francisco. And then finally, we have an entrepreneurship component to this. We're hoping that by attracting all this new tech talent and having them co-located in a space where they can feed off each other, we're gonna birth the new the next generation of a Lowe's company that was born here in Wilkes County and has grown to this worldwide phenomenon. We'd love to see the next technology company be launched from here in Wilkes County out of the talent that we're going to develop and hopefully retain here in our community. All right, next. So again, this is the idea of the downtown and having this remote tech outpost. I've already mentioned that. We'll go on to the next slide. And so our employer partners have helped us identify these as the main areas: the network management, cybersecurity, software development, IT support. We're going to have a range of opportunity from a short-term 15-week boot camp type programs that students are already graduating out of and going into jobs making 40 or 50 or 60,000 a year. We're going to have the 2-year degree options here at the college for students who want to complete the 2-year degree, and then work with various university partners to complete this 4-year degree and even master level and above programs. So we want to be able to offer to our students and our employer partners this whole spectrum of training opportunities that's going to get them out of poverty and into real strong living wage jobs and careers. All right, next. So that's our big idea. I'm going to turn over to LeeAnn. I know she's got some information she'd like to fill in some of the gaps that I've left. LeeAnn.
Thank you, Dr. Cox. It's great to be with everyone today. And I just want to say how thrilled as an economic developer that we have this opportunity to work together with not only our college, but it really is becoming a community or a regional effort in Northwestern North Carolina with the college serving both Ashe and Allegheny counties. So we're grateful for NC Tech Pass. This is a wonderful opportunity, as you all can see, to attract talent. But because our fiber is so strong here in this community, which some people do not realize across the state that we are strong in fiber, that as Dr. Cox said, we're finding that many people are trying to figure out how can I live in this environment that we offer in Northwestern North Carolina and work remote. So we see this as a great career path for young people all the way up to maybe reskilling and retraining from any age. The co-working space, the regional or remote tech outpost, we're thrilled about that because that's going to help revitalize downtown North Wilkesboro. And there's actually a much bigger plan that has spurred off of this that we'll hear more about as press releases come out maybe in the next few days. But it's just something that has been a catalyst, and it's starting a revitalization effort in North Wilkesboro. And so we're so excited about that. And as Dr. Cox has said, there are several other tech companies across North Carolina, or maybe even further away, that are looking at putting pods in this outpost and utilizing the training programs that the community college will offer. And so this is a great opportunity for even you all as partners across the state of North Carolina to realize that you may have a company and maybe that company's having a hard time finding all of the talent that they need in the workforce. You can keep your headquarters right where they're at, but maybe utilize some of our rural talent through this product and this program to train them up and let them work remote, but yet come together in this outpost and encourage each other. There's going to be a lot of mentorship going on. And just strength and relationships. I've found that in Wilkes County, there's so many people that are willing to give back, and leaders from large companies that, especially like Lowe's, that are willing to engage with others who are trying to get started and make a career for themselves. And so already knowing that this pod concept and co-working space is available, I've already been able to connect other entrepreneurs that would like to have space within the new outpost to begin working out of their home office and come in and be with others. So we're making those connections really even before the doors probably opened, and we'll continue to do so. But we hope, just like any good economic developer would, that these companies will outgrow that space over time. Maybe young professionals will develop new technologies and need other places. And so in the meantime, the Wilkes Economic Development Partnership is also building Wilkes Commercial Business Center. And that is a location about 31,500 square feet where we can house and lease space to companies that maybe outgrow the co-working space at some point. So, we're just thrilled to have this opportunity and to have the solution for our workforce to have better career opportunities, make stronger wages, and just remember that this is going on, and we'd be glad to share with you more information about it at any point in time that we can connect and collaborate. And that's all.
All right. Thank you to all of our panelists for such great presentations and great perspectives. We now have time for a few questions. If you could, again, attendees, I ask that you actually put your questions in the Q&A section. So I do have a question while we may be waiting for our attendees to enter a question in. Each one of you talked about different perspectives. Blue Ridge, I know you talked about the Talent Summit and how employers drive the solutions. And then I think Wade talked about the ecosystem that's there. And over in Wilkes, you guys talked about the rural tech talent pipeline. So really, this question is really for the presidents to respond. With all the programs that you offer on your campus, whether it's college transfer, adult basic skills, not to mention customized training and small business center, I got to include those. How do you prioritize what best fits the economic development model when you're actually offering these services with these companies?
Bruce, I'll jump in. So I think we're trying to tailor our programs to our students first to think what's going to work for that student. Some folks don't have 2 years or 4 years to work on getting a degree or credential. They need something much quicker than that. So that's where our entry level with this NC Tech Pass program is a 15-week kind of intensive training program. But it's, you know, if you can make that commitment, and we're working on stipends and things to support students who do that, because it's all day, 5 days a week, full day. It's a full-time job there for 15 weeks. But then they turn around and they're going into $50,000 a year jobs. That's a great turnaround for the student. But for other students, they may be, you know, out of high school and they may be more tuned into a 2-year degree or 4-year degree. So we're trying to shape our programs around what the needs of our students are as they're coming to us.
Thank you, Jeff. Anybody else?
Bruce, I'll jump in. I think we try to prioritize connection instead of compartmentalization. And I mean, that sounds kind of Pollyannish, but I think what we try to do is not compartmentalize, certainly something like economic development or customized training or any aspect of it. Not that we have to have great strengths in those areas, great leaders, strategies about what we're doing and different. But what we try to prioritize is connection. We kind of, in our region, which is a unique region, it's been defined by higher ed, but for the most part, higher ed has served as a magnet for our region. It's brought people into our region for amazing jobs, where we have struggled as being a ladder in our region for folks who grew up in our region to have those same opportunities that are coming to our region. And that's how we define ourselves, as our region's ladder college. And so we use a phrase, laddering. We'll say ladder up, we'll say ladder economics, but it is a how each of those rungs are connected. A big challenge for a college like Wake Tech, which if you step back and look at us, we're perhaps the largest college in North Carolina. We can have so many programs that if we just throw programs against the wall at a company or at anybody, it is overwhelming. It is to anyone. And so for us, it's a huge emphasis on how the rungs are connected. That's why we try to have within our provost, for instance, both non-degree and degree programmatic responsibilities, so you can make those connections. So like in an IT program, all of our accelerated programs lead to credentials in the workplace, but credit into our programs, how our programs are tied into apprenticeship and work-based learning, how we have our career college promise high school pathways, how we have the university transfers and our university partners connected, because we see ourselves as that ladder. And a lot of that is about connecting the rungs, not just, having program compartments.
Okay.
Dr.
Thank
Mack,
you. Yes.
I can finish right behind Scott. So what you talked about is all the different things that our community colleges do, right? So the beauty of the community colleges is we're all things to all people. The challenge of our community colleges is we're all things to all people. But why that is incredibly important to economic development is that diverse population that we serve. Those are prime candidates for us lifting them up and getting them into these high wage jobs, which are opportunities they would have never, ever had or would have ever thought that they could achieve. And I think that's really important, just the different populations that we serve. Secondly is embedding credentials in every single thing that we do. So if a student needs an off-ramp, right, something, life happens to them, they're going to off-ramp with a credential, and they can come back on later on and finish that degree or whatever. So I think those are two important pieces to add to that.
That's good stuff. Thank you. We do have a question in the chat, and this question is probably for economic developer folks that's on the call. It says, with only 3.5% unemployment rate, do you have concerns about meeting the workforce demands of expanding and relocating employers in your service areas? And then we have existing businesses with extreme labor shortages. Are you concerned about these shortages impacting future recruitments? Let's hear from some economic development people.
Sure, I'll jump in on that one. As mentioned, workforce is driving the recruitment strategy. It's also driving the retention strategy. And that's why it's so important to remind our existing industries of the number of possibilities. It's not just apprenticeship. It's not just credentialing, but you've got to be doing all the things right now to recruit and retain your talent. And talking to them too about how can you upskill your machinery and your equipment, and then that upskills your employees. And so we're looking at new strategies that are kind of the pain point for economic developers. It's not going out and creating thousands of jobs like it used to be. It's how can we create sustainable companies in our community that have the right equipment, the right talent, and put those pieces together.
I would also add to that in Wilkes, one of the things that we're doing is during COVID, we know that many people might have left the workforce, and we're trying to determine how do we get them back? What are some solutions that might encourage them to return to the workplace? So we need to find and identify those that are either underemployed or those that are not in the workforce and get them back in. And that will help us meet the demand of our current employers as well as those who we might attract to the region.
Yeah. Hey, Bruce, real quick, I'd agree with both LeeAnn and Brittany's points. I think the other thing that's important is as we're thinking about talent, particularly as it serves our existing companies, that's the most important thing for us, and thinking about these issues as probably more systemic as our labor force participation rate continues to decline. This isn't something that's just a pandemic related. LeeAnn's right, there are a lot of that, and it's important that we get as many people back into the workforce as possible. But with the decline in labor force, this is something that we're going to be dealing with as both economic developers and community colleges for many years to come.
Sounds good. And I think Scott Dorney wrote in the chat, don't forget about transitioning military talent as well. I think we have one more question here, time for one more question. So it says, there's a lot of talk about not everyone needs a degree to get a job in today's economy. Too often this is interpreted as a high school degree is all you need. How do you all talk about the need for credentials after high school and the need for lifelong learning?
I'll jump in on that. We really try to emphasize and. It shouldn't have to be an either or. And, one of the things we do work with, with a lot of the tech employers here in this region, and I've worked with a lot in Northern Virginia, and over the years, I've heard them say they don't care about degrees anymore. They just care about skills. But if you kind of peel back behind, when it comes to promotions, they still care about degrees. So it's, the notion that, and that's why we talk about laddering here, because, job training, boot camps, they provide skills that can, and provide credentials that can get someone that job. And a lot of times that's what a working adult needs, is that job. But if it's just that opportunity, it's like a ladder with just the bottom rungs. But the college degrees these days, particularly for working adults, are like a ladder with just the top rungs. And so I think that's where community colleges can uniquely come in, as piecing that together and connecting those rungs, because when we can connect non-degree opportunities for adults and give them a foothold in the workplace, and then a foothold back into our degrees, and then they can keep moving forward. And when we have strategic university partnerships, they can not have to, they don't have to stop. And I think too often we're getting pulled into this either or about degrees versus skills, when the truth is you really need both for career mobility.
I think Scott's got it exactly right. It's really helping students understand and people understand, companies understand that that's not a stopping point, that's a starting point. And then having that, when you're getting ready, a student is ready to transition out of our credential or our program or whatever, we need to have that discussion about what's next, right? And then they get into the company, we stay in touch with them, and then they say, well, what's next for you? There's an opportunity for a promotion here. You will never hear our community colleges say that a degree is not important, right? That shouldn't even be in our vocabulary. So I think we need to help people understand that 65 to 75% of the jobs require some kind of post-secondary credential. We have to continue to share that message and continue to talk about the value of post-secondary credentials in education.
The only thing I would add is just to say it's important to have that conversation on both ends with our students and who are going to be the employees, but also with our employers and helping them understand the value we can continue to add. You get that student in with the initial credential, short-term credential, but then it's in the company's interest and the employee's interest to continue to build upon that skill set, as Scott and Laura were alluding to, with the advancement opportunities. So we want to be that solution provider on both sides. We got the employers with their needs, the employees with their needs, and we want to be the bridge in between.
That sounds good. I hate to end the discussion, but it is 12 o'clock. Lawrence and Liz, I think we've teed up for the next professional development opportunity. There's some great questions going on in the chat about childcare. I think we need to look at underemployed as well. And then transportation, we can talk about affordable housing. So these are things that we can probably have maybe a future professional development session as well. So on behalf of the North Carolina Community College System, let me thank all the panelists and all the attendees. And then, of course, the NCEDA leadership for their participation. So at this time, I'm going to turn it back over to my friend Maureen Little for some closing remarks.
Thank you, Bruce. And thanks again to the panelists, Dr. Leatherwood, Dr. Ralls, Dr. Cox, and then to Brittany, Michael, and LeeAnn. That was a thoroughly valuable discussion. Before we go, we also want to offer our thanks again to the Hayes Group Consulting, today's presenting sponsor, and acknowledge the support of NCEDA's annual sponsors, all those names that we showed you earlier. Learning events like this one would not be possible without the generosity of all of those entities. A couple of June dates very quickly that we want to make sure you have on your calendar if they're not already there. June 8th is NCEDA's annual legislative breakfast. Now that, of course, will take place in Raleigh at the North Carolina General Assembly cafeteria. And then the following week is the annual conference for NCEDA, June the 14th through the 16th at Wrightsville Beach. We hope that you'll all be able to join us for both of those events. So watch your emails for additional information on those two events. In closing, I'd like to thank everyone for their participation this morning. We know you have a lot of demands on your time and attention, and we appreciate the fact that you made NCEDA professional development programs a priority. We look forward to seeing you again soon.